Hey, what is up guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Gran Turismo 7. It's time for another little bit of a news and update video. As you may well know, we had the World Series finals this last weekend. Now surprisingly enough, there was quite a bit of news and update information over the weekend. Now the Saturday was pretty quiet, not much went on there. However, the Sunday was an entirely different story. Of course, we got our first look at the Hyundai. Now this was originally meant to be a mystery car award, but you'll probably know that Polyphony did end up leaking it themselves. So about a week prior to the event, they did have to go around to say what the car was in an official capacity, and it did kind of kill it off in terms of the secrecy for the World Series finals, but I think that was probably for the best. With it being an EV, you can guarantee there's going to be a lot of players that are complaining about that, and if that would have been the only thing to be shown off, then it would have probably gone down like a lead balloon. However, it wasn't. We actually got a look at another new car as well. So this is a surprise reveal that we got. This is the Gran Turismo F3 500A. As you can see, it's pretty much an early 1990s Formula 1 car. Its aspiration is naturally aspirated. The drivetrain is MR. Power of 784 PS, weighing 505 kilograms. Now I would say, just from looking at this very much resembles the FW14 or the 1991 and 1992 Williams Formula 1 car. I definitely think from a looks perspective it looks fantastic. I think in terms of the era they've gone for, which is kind of the early 90s, I think that is great for them to do. Yes, it's not official, but these unlicensed formula cars have been something that Gran Turismo and Polyphony have done for many years. I think as far back as like Gran Turismo 3 was where it was kind of first rolling around. Now in terms of the car though, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. If you heard the car during the stream, it very much sounded like a V12 engine car, but if you're going for accuracy on the era this car is based on, then it would definitely be a V10 at the time of this kind of era of Formula 1. So maybe they'll change that up when it comes to the final release, but it definitely sounded a bit off for what I originally expected. Maybe to people that aren't purists about Formula 1 it might not bother them, but to those that know, then you kind of know those very distinct era sounds of all different Formula 1 cars across the years. So apart from the sound, I think it looked fantastic on track. It looked great fun to use. I have zero complaints there, and it was a fantastic little surprise. In terms of the kind of Formula 1 cars that we have in game, we'll have it kind of the 1950s with the Mercedes, the 60s with the Hondas. We then kind of have the 70s covered in a fantasy kind of way. Of course we have the 80s with the McLaren, and of course the early 90s as well. So who knows where this will go in the future, and it's fantastic to see them adding more of these formula cars to the game. So even if the Hyundai kind of mystery event reveal thing didn't go to plan for Polyphony, at least this kind of brought the hype back up there. Now touching on the Hyundai, whilst again I'm not that excited since it's an EV car, it did seem like a pretty cool one, I cannot lie. It was great to see it on track. I think it looks like a pretty damn nice model. However, in terms of its longevity in game, I'm not expecting it to kind of stay fresh in the memory of many people for very long after it's released. I definitely think the Formula car has done a much better job at building up hype for cars that are not currently in game. So fresh new cars wasn't the only thing that we actually saw during the World Series. In fact, surprisingly, we did see something that a lot of Gran Turismo players have been asking for a very long time, especially for a numbered title. And of course that is a type of B-Spec, and it did seem to be a type of B-Spec powered by Sophi AI, which I can only think is a much better thing than the kind of miserable and dull and terrible AI that is typical in Gran Turismo game. So right at the beginning of the Nations Cup stream on the Sunday, we saw GT Sophi Race Together 2024, which appeared to be the Sophi AI powering a type of B-Spec event where you can ask it to pit, overtake, and all the typical stuff you'd see with B-Spec. However, of course, powered by Sophi, which just makes the AI much better and a lot less brain dead than it typically is. Now, if you don't know what B-Spec is, it was a mode that I believe appeared originally in Gran Turismo 3 and ran through all of the main series titles up until GT6, I believe, and then it kind of, of course, is absent in GT7 and just not returned. There's been no real hints of it until now. Now for me, this makes absolute sense, as one of the best ways to get the most out of Sophi's AI is to have it powering your AI driver. Again, it will kind of react more intelligently to overtaking, pitting, you know, changing tires, all that kind of stuff. And in a management type aspect, I think this could be absolutely fantastic if we saw a full-blown return of B-Spec. So of course during the event we only got a real glimpse of what this could be. There was no official announcement that it's definitely going to be returning to GT7 or really fully implemented at any point. However, again, this does seem like a lot of potential to really power a proper comeback for the B-Spec mode, whether that's in GT7 or further down the line with something like GT8, or who knows, it could be its own spin-off title. But if this made it into a full Gran Turismo release, whether that was 7 or 8 or whatever it may be called in the future, I think this would be great for the game itself, considering B-Spec naturally brings its own events in, its own rewards. Again, you have the, you know, hiring and firing of drivers kind of thing, building up their confidence as they go through their own little career, as well as you being able to do the A-Spec or, you know, driving yourself, you know, on the side with your own career. So I think this is great for really building upon Gran Turismo itself and just making the game feel much more complete. Again, the loss of B-Spec is incredibly felt throughout GT7, especially when it comes to the single player career mode type content. Now, a great thing is that it does seem as of late there's been a lot more of a push for Sophi AI, or at least in terms of the content. When it was first fully implemented properly, when Spec 2 launched, it was kind of just put in there and nothing was added for many months. However, the last few updates have brought a constant stream of Sophi content. Now this to me says that Polyphony or Sony or whatever are really getting to grips with the Sophi AI, and they're being able to kind of put it more and more in game. So eventually the lead on to some type of B-Spec mode would be fantastic. And there we have it in terms of the main news from the World Series finals. I actually didn't mind it this time around. I think it was much less kind of in your face and cringy. I think at times when it came to showing off the VGTs and stuff in some of the past ones, it was just a little bit too much, and it's difficult to kind of, you know, show these things off where most of the player base doesn't care for them. And whilst the Hyundai of course kind of got spoiled before its actual launch and kind of being shown off, I think it actually did much better for the reveal than it would have been if it was a mystery. I think there would have been a lot more upset, and again the Formula car kind of came around to save the day to that, and I think that is something that none of us really truly expected. Of course, the showcase of what seemed to be some type of B-Spec mode with Sophi was fantastic to see, and overall I think it was a pretty decent weekend for Gran Turismo fans. I definitely think this weekend seemed to be Gran Turismo pushing itself in the right direction. Of course, yes, the Hyundai really wasn't that exciting, but it does seem pretty okay. I do think the Formula cars kind of seems to be that Polyphony are maybe listening to us in a sense. I know there's been a lot of players that want a lot more of these kind of, you know, classic Formula cars, and again it's filling up quite nicely, and it does show that even if they can't necessarily get it licensed in an official capacity, they can still go ahead and do a fantasy variant, which I always think is a great thing. It's something they've always done since of course Gran Turismo 3, and again I think in terms of seeing Sophi AI powering some type of B-Spec mode, it does seem that maybe Polyphony might actually be listening at this point. Anyway, don't forget to let me know what you guys think of the news down in the comments below. I will see you in the next video. Take care guys, peace.